Namaste everyone. Welcome to Tibet TV panel discussion. We are hosting researchers from Tibet Policy Institute, CTA, to tell us about their research work over the years. And as a part of this program today, we have here with us Dr. Tenzin Desela, who is going to talk about the recently published report book from TPI titled Cultural Genocide in Tibet. Dr. Tenzin Desela is currently a research fellow at the TPI, and he has written and published numerous research articles on development in Tibet and ethnic policy in China. And he has written articles like China and Making of Colonial State, Dilemma of Development, Tibet's Development Project, and Reductionist Reading. Welcome to the program, Desela.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, first of all, can you please tell us about the publish of this report by TPI, and by that mean, can you tell us or explain us the meaning of cultural genocide in Tibet, and how do you define the term?
Right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Well, this cultural genocide report, the first draft was written by the current director of the Tibet Policy Institute, Mr. Thupten Sampel, along with Pujung T. Sonam, who is a former staff at the Department of International Relations. And we took the draft and we worked on it with Kumo Sambela, myself, and Dr. Rinzi Dojala. So we worked on the draft, and then this is how we came about with the report. With the term genocide, the cultural genocide, I think it was first coined by a Polish law professor. It was way back in 1944, if you remember, if you recall. It was at a time when the Second World War was drawing to a close, and he was a Polish in origin, so he wrote this book where this term was first used, and the term genocide is drawn from a Greek root where the genos means the ethnic population, and to cide means to kill. So this is how it came about.
Okay, Desela, can you tell us about the leading policies and methods that the Chinese government is using in Tibet in order to carry out the cultural genocide?
Right. Well, there's so many facets to this question, and one of the leading questions, I think, which we have to be extremely concerned about, is how the Chinese Communist Party and the government itself is trying to manage the Tibetan Buddhism. So, for instance, recently when Dao Yizhuang, the Vice Ministers of the United Front Work Department, he gave a press conference on the sidelines of the 19th Party Congress, where he said that, you know, the Tibetan Buddhism has Chinese orientation and has its sources in Tibet, which is completely abdication of the Tibetan history and appropriation of the Tibetan intellectual and spiritual history. And over the years, they have implemented many policies, and one of the policies that we have been extremely concerned about is the implementation, the circulation of an order called the Order Number 5, which was circulated in the year 2007, which says that all the reincarnations should be managed by the party and the government. So now this is posing a great threat to how we are going to manage the Tibetan Buddhism when it comes to the Tulku system. And another thing that we are extremely concerned about is the democratic management committee, which are installed in most of the Tibetan monasteries. So, for instance, I think it was recently that the party have declared that they're going to have about 6 to 7 party members who are going to look after the management of the Larungar monastery.
Okay, so special management for the Larungar.
Yes, so likewise, they have the democratic management committees in many of the monasteries, and the latest one that we are aware of that was implemented in Larungar monasteries, and we know what has happened to Larungar monasteries. So what the democratic management committee does is basically getting involved with the daily routine of the monks and the nuns involved in that specific Buddhist institution. So they could regulate the movement, they could regulate the the textual studies, what they are reading and learning. So pretty much have the entire well, they have such a huge bearing on the management of the monastery. So this is something that we are concerned about. And in terms of language, since the Chinese government came to Tibet, so they have been altering the syntax, the grammar of the Tibetan language itself. So they have been using new nomenclatures, new words, new phrases that we are not familiar with. So some of these phrases are extremely dangerous in a sense that they reveal the Orwellian mindset of the Chinese party and the government and how they're implementing their policies in Tibet.
Okay, and Dasula, you as a researcher at the TPI, for this report, what are the main sources of information that you have put in?
Right. Well, there are many sources, and I think one of the primary sources, which we consider extremely important, is the 70,000 character petition that Panchen Lama, the former Panchen Lama, drafted. So it was during the time when China was implementing the democratic reform in Tibet. So Tibet was, the Chinese had the full control. The Communist Party had full control over Tibet in 1959, and over the years, till about 1962, they carried out the so-called democratic reform, and Tibetans have gone through unbearable calamities at that time. So this report details what has happened in many of the places in Tibet. So this is one of the reports that we consider very important. And the other report, recently in 2008, during the mass uprising in Tibet, a report that was compiled by largely many Chinese lawyers and many Chinese intellectuals, called the Gongwang Report. So they detail what are the causes. They try to investigate what are the causes for this uprising in Tibet. So, which is incredibly valuable in a sense that they are the Chinese who are compiling this report and try to make sense of the failed policies in Tibet. And likewise, there are so many incredibly brave intellectuals who write about Tibet and the sufferings that they're going through, like Shokchang, Shokdung, and so and many of the reports written by various NGOs.
So it's a combination of all these reports,
yes,
and the information from writers from Tibet and from China who sympathize for Tibet issue and the problem going on there.
Yes, and this is far from a complete report in the sense that many of the policies implemented in Tibet, it's very difficult to make sense of what is going on in Tibet because we don't have the privilege of going to the place and doing the research. So what we are reliant on are the researchers who have the privilege of going to Tibet and researching on there, and their reports and their findings. So this is an ongoing project, and what we as a researcher at the Tibet Policy Institute do is to try to make sense of what is going on in Tibet. And it is an ongoing project. We have to build up on the information we have and then try to make sense.
Okay, and by the report and all the other that research work that TPI do and monitor the information flow with time to time. So is there any significance with the date of publish with this report?
Yes, this is because as we all know, during the week-long carefully choreographed 19-party Congress that has recently drawn to a close. What we are trying to do with this report is to say that the Tibetan issue is not resolved yet. And the report was inaugurated 2 days before the 19-party Congress. There was a conference which was organized in Delhi where the Sikyong, the Honorable Sikyong himself was there at the conference where we made this publication available for everyone to see.
Okay, and lastly, the last question, what are the possible threat and danger or the degree of danger that you see when by the policy, those policies those Chinese government had poses on Tibet and to sustain the identity of Tibet and restoring freedom in for the Tibetan people inside Tibet, especially. Yeah.
Well, this is my personal opinion. I have incredible hope when it comes to sustaining Tibetan identity and culture because of the resilience of the Tibetan people. Although there are so many policies that are implemented over the years, which which leads to discrimination, suppression, and monitoring, securitization. There's so many policies implemented, but however, no matter how many of these policies implemented in Tibet, the resilience and the courage of the Tibetan people, I think, is something that we can draw our inspiration and hope from.
Thank you, Dr. Desila. With this, we are going to end today's program, and we have through this program we have discussed about the recently published report titled Cultural Genocide in Tibet by TPI, and Dr. Desila here, who is a research fellow at the TPI, talked about what's there written in the book, in this report, which talks about the ongoing repression and the cultural genocide under the Chinese government and the policies that the Chinese government has implemented and what are the consequences that the Tibetans face there. So Dr. Desila, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.